before that point, from September 3rd, which is when she got ill, that's not when she got the vaccine, but when she got ill from the vaccine, from that point onwards till whatever point in time we were at, she had no short-term memory recall. She could only recall up to about 6 to 8 hours before. And then it slowly went up to 12 hours, then 18 hours, then 20 hours. She just left here yesterday after this week's treatments, and we're up to between 28 and 30 hours she can recall, but her short-term memory is very scrambled in between September 3rd and anything 30 hours or more previous, all the way back to September 3rd. Her ability to articulate certain things, they become difficult. Right now she's got a very interesting phenomenon that's been described in the literature as foreign accent syndrome, where now she can actually talk normally, but it's in an accent. She's not talking in her normal tone of voice. So it's actually a very interesting finding that we've seen in post-stroke patients. This is pretty well described in the literature. So again, it's a very fine motor skill aspect where the innervation of the tongue is not quite 100% back, but the person is able to talk, they can communicate, the connections are being made in the brain, yet they can't speak in their normal tone. So, she kind of likes the accent right now. She said, I kind of like this. So, but the point is she can talk normally now. She's no longer having seizures. Now, certain types of stimuli, like lights, certain types of lights, certain noises. Before, if she was trying to concentrate on a conversation and there were two people talking at the same time, it would throw her into a seizure. Certain types of lights would throw her into a seizure. Now she doesn't have that problem. She still can't concentrate or process more than one conversation, but the second conversation in the background doesn't throw her into the seizure. And for some people that may not understand this, it's because the brain is trying to process all the sensory input, and it cannot. It's volume overload. It can't process it all, and so that throws the brain into this hyper electrical activity phase, if you will, which is essentially a seizure, a type of a seizure, or is a seizure, and so that's one of the reasons that she has some of these issues. But her ability to walk completely intact. Sometimes she'll start having, I think in the last 8 days or 9 days, she's only had maybe one seizure compared to anywhere between 45 and 60 seizures a day she was having before. She doesn't have any more problems breathing. She can talk normally. She can, she still can't read. She can't math that she could. Are you there?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought I lost the
No, I'm here.
The mathematical skills, for instance, if you give her a certain problem to do, a very simple math problem, 17 plus 9, she can't do that. But if you say 2 times 2 or 4 times 4, she can do that because that's based upon long-term memory when she was a child. So certain things like that right now she can't process, certain higher cognitive skill problems. But she's aware and she's cognizant, and so for that we're her and her family, and obviously us too, we're very grateful.
Right. Wow. SubhanAllah. What was the actual prognosis given to her by the doctors? I'm just curious. I think they pretty much gave up on her, as I understand it.
She was discharged from a couple of hospitals, and she was given a number of diagnoses that basically were. They said everything from autoimmune to dystonia to psychogenic to they didn't know. There was a whole gamut. And bottom line is nobody was able to do anything for her. She was progressively worsening. In fact, she ran a race the weekend before she came to me, and I think that was really the clincher because she has a lot of willpower. This woman has a lot of drive. And so she wasn't going to let this try to bring her down. And when she actually ran, she seemed like she could breathe better and she felt better. The reason is because she was able to get more perfusion to her brain. When she ran, her heart was pumping, so there was more blood getting to her brain. But the problem was after she'd stop, she would crash, and each time she ran, she would get worse afterwards. On that weekend when she ran, she really crashed. She couldn't even walk into our clinic. 48 hours later, she couldn't even walk in. She was carried in, and she was really bad off at that point.
So how did Desiree meet up with you? How did that even happen?
Well, there are no mistakes, and everything happens for a very specific reason. And basically, my name in Arabic means one who stays on the right path of life. And I have this internal mechanism that many times if I think that, like I blow something off and I don't think it's important, the signal comes to me in threes. And so if I've made a decision and it's the wrong decision and it's not what I'm supposed to do, God sends me 3 signals. And the third time is usually like, a slap in the face, like, wake up and listen. And so it was like one of those type of things that happened. I'd seen what was happening with her. I knew we could help her. 3 different people that, 2 staff members and another person that is very important in my own personal life, basically told me we needed to find this girl and treat her because we could help her. And I kind of blew it off. And then I was watching the video, and she made the comment. She said that these children that have autism, they've been injured, and they can't speak for themselves, but I can't speak. I'm going to speak for them. And that was what kind of flipped it for me. And I made one call to a friend of mine because there were people that were trying to find out how to get a hold of her, and to me it wasn't important, but I made one call to a friend of mine who was a founder for Generation Rescue, and I told him, I said, it was maybe a 15-second conversation. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years. He's a very good friend, and I just said I can help her, and he said, the guy that was the president of Generation Rescue at that time was in the air flying over to her. He said he'll call you in 2 hours as soon as he lands. As soon as he lands, before he gets off the plane, he'll call you. And that was about 48 hours before they got her to me. And so that's basically it.
It's all destined to happen, clearly. Yeah. Wow.
So if I went through all the details, it would be even more. It's almost too difficult to believe, like some of the things that happened. So I won't go into all those details, but it was supposed to happen that way, right?
And the thing that really, I guess, touched me about the whole thing was I've been working with the whole vaccination, anti-vaccination thing. I've been fighting it for a long time, and so I'm in sort of a ring of people that are all against the vaccination. And so as soon as her story hit, we all talked about it. We all prayed for her. We all just, felt horrible for this poor woman. And we were just, I remember just feeling like, what a brave soul to come on television, especially a young, beautiful woman like herself, to come in and show herself as, in not the most glamorous position, in an attempt to warn the rest of mankind. And that really touched me. And then when I saw... let's say it looks like you've gone through a bit of trouble with the North Carolina Medical Board.
No, I haven't had any trouble with the medical board. They're trying to create trouble for me. They have been for 9 years, but I haven't. I have a completely 110% clean record.
Right.
I've never been named in a malpractice lawsuit. I've never had any complaints against me until the medical board decided to file charges on me based on 4 complaints of people that have never even been in my clinic.
Well, see, and
farce.
That's what I want to highlight to people is the whole farce of, unfortunately, the medical paradigm that we're pretty much operating under. I mean, when you look at, the Journal of American Medical Association even admitting that the number 3 cause death in the United States, and I think it's maybe now up to number 1, is iatrogenic related, basically meaning it's either doctor or pharmaceutical related. And, if you were to compare this to...
Actually, the JAMA article actually says it's the 4th leading cause of death because it has been considered the number 1 by Gary Null, and his team, they reported it as the first one, and the medical profession's defense was it's not the number 1, it's the number 4. That's like some big, heroic thing that they've accomplished by getting it 4.
Okay, now can you imagine if an airline had that sort of a record?
Yeah,
if the number 4 death of all people in our country is flying our airplanes, nobody would ever go near there.
Exactly, and this is an interesting point that you bring up too, because as an example with the medical board aspect, to give you a perfect example, in the state of North Carolina, we have a list of over 30 doctors that have had malpractice lawsuits paid out against them for negligent work. They have never, ever received any disciplinary action from the board, not even a verbal reprimand, not even a letter. Yet they're trying to take my license, which I have said publicly that if you believe that I am guilty of what you have accused me of, which is unethical breach of conduct, that it is the medical board's fiduciary and ethical responsibility to immediately take my license. Immediately. That was over 2 years ago. The bastards still haven't done it. I don't know that I can say that. Excuse me.
Yeah.
They still haven't taken my license.
Right.
And the reason is because they know that as soon as they take my license, I'm going to file an emergency stay order in Superior Court and get it out of their kangaroo court in front of a real judge. And they can't afford that scrutiny. In fact, 2 months ago, August, September, October, November, 3 months ago, we had filed a lawsuit against the North Carolina Medical Board in Superior Court because they wanted to retry the same issues, which God forbid somebody commits murder, you can only be tried once for it. But with me, they're trying to retry us after we won the first time, and then they did this thing called ex parte, which means that the attorneys on the other side were guilty of doing something they're not supposed to do, which is talking to witnesses without my attorneys being present. So it was declared a mistrial, I spent a lot of money fighting this, but when they declared the mistrial, it gives them another opportunity to go against me again. So we said that, look, there's no way we can get a fair trial because we've got the entire medical board knows this stuff. They're not going to give us an impartial trial. Plus, the medical board president, a doctor, is acting as my judge, just like having the fox protect the hen house. So we said we want a real judge. And, of course, they said no.